The Buffalo Sabres seem to be working the phones as three players in particular are being apparently shopped around. We're going to discuss the rumors here in today's video. So, the Buffalo Sabres, things are not going well. Shocking, I know. But for the Buffalo Sabres, another disappointing season and is likely heading down to the path of another year of selling at this year's trade deadline. And three names in particular have been brought up for the Buffalo Sabres. I think a lot of this is going to tread into the summer, mostly because of a specific player in Vancouver that has been linked to the Buffalo Sabres a lot recently. Until that situation materializes, it's going to be interesting to see how the Buffalo Sabres play off this deadline. I do think there is one player in particular that I'm pretty sure is going to see the door, but I think it's actually going to be for a better opportunity. So we'll discuss that. So just for the context here, the Buffalo Sabres find themselves as the third worst team in the National Hockey League with 49 points this season. The only two teams that are behind them in the standings with 41 points and 45 points respectively are the Nashville Predators and the Chicago Blackhawks. So for the Buffalo Sabres, it seems like it's sell time. And as time has moved on more and more, they've tried to stay in the race, but I just think they're too far back. It's just not, it's too little too late. You know, they had a really good, honestly, like considering you look at the last couple of weeks, they actually haven't played that bad. It really comes back to that stretch between the end of November through December. That's really what sunk the Buffalo Sabres. After that game, after that streak they went on, that huge losing streak, they were just it was too far back for them to really make up that ground, right? Realistically, but obviously it doesn't help that they've had a couple of injuries. Really going back a couple of years now that have been kind of big. I mean, losing Jordan Greenway, that was a big deal at the time. That's a middle body injury, it sounds like. And we're still kind of waiting to see the latest on what ends up happening there. The latest we got was from the end of January. He's slated to begin practice with the Sabres soon from Lance Lazowski. So we haven't really heard any updates since then. A back injury to Beck Mellenstein. That was a couple of days ago. Matthias Samuelsson out with a lower body injury. Like, things are going in the wrong direction, and they're getting worse for the Buffalo Sabres in terms of their health. So it's pretty safe to assume that they will be trying to sell pieces at the deadline. And Alex Tuch's name has been brought up a couple of times. This one, I really like this rumor. And if it is indeed true, I think he's a great fit there. And the first time we heard this, now this is two separate reports that we're hearing this from in the past 2 weeks. The first one was from Elliot Friedman, and it was more along the lines of the Tampa Bay Lightning have asked the Sabres about Alex Tuch's availability. So that one seems pretty good because that's not, oh, I wonder if this would be a good fit. You got to really read the context of it. Like, the Lightning have actually asked the Sabres about his availability. So I'm sure they're working on something and trying to come to some sort of deal. The Tampa Bay Lightning have been diminished of all their draft picks and prospects. And I wonder if they're going to learn a little bit of a lesson from the Tanner Jeannot trade. They're going to be careful with how much they give up in a deal here. So we'll see what ends up happening. Really, what is, the Tampa Bay Lightning really have left. But that's a culture piece for the Buffalo Sabres. And as much as I like him going to Tampa Bay, I mean, it would be a huge loss for him to leave Buffalo, right? And I think the Sabres fans have kind of grown with him and seen his development since he came over from the Vegas Golden Knights trade for Eichel. Like, it would be a tough loss for them. And Elliot Friedman also said if the Sabres make Alex Tuch available, Friedman could see the Lightning being interested. So again, that's Elliot Friedman. He really is jumping on that train, and I do like that as well. Like, I think it makes a lot of sense for all the teams involved, but definitely, like, he's a good fit for Tampa. And again, they're trying to win another cup here before this whole thing closes in Tampa Bay. Alex Tuch is a guy that isn't going to cost you a super huge package, yet is also he's going to be an impact player. I mean, he's got 43 points already this season. He's on pace for probably close to 65 to 70 points. You put him on the Lightning, he might be even closer to that point per game player. Like, that's a really good hockey player. And he can play on the power play, the penalty kill. He's a very versatile player. He's tough to play against, especially in the playoffs. this is a playoff hockey player. And it's been a shame that he hasn't been in the playoffs the last couple years with the Buffalo Sabres, but like this is a good addition if they're able to find a way to drag him out of Buffalo. And then one of the other players we are going to speculate here, and this one I think is this one, if it's not Alex Tuch that's going to get traded at the deadline, I would very much be interested to see, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Dylan Cozens' name ended up being a guy that got thrown around. Now, I really haven't been paying up. I mean, honestly, I really haven't paid much attention to Buffalo, and a lot of you guys were telling me, like, Dylan Cozens, he's not that good. And I will take a little bit of heat for that, because you know what? Dylan Cozens hasn't been that good. He's got 27 points in 54 games, and, I mean, really, you know, even last year, like, I thought he did pretty well. He had 50 points last year. He had 47 points in 79 games. That's basically a 50-point season. That's not terrible. The season before that, he had 70 points, 30 goals. But now it seems like, you know, with what he's on pace for this season, which is around 20 goals this season, I don't know. I really don't know what you can expect from Dylan Cozens at this point. I wonder if a change of scenery would just do him a lot of good. And I definitely could see something like that happening at the deadline. And a lot of interesting teams have been in the mix for Dylan Cozens. And this is from David Pagnotta. He said the Canucks, the Flames, the Blackhawks, the Predators, and the Red Wings have been linked to Dylan Cozens. And I think those all make a lot of sense. They're all looking for that depth down the middle. And not necessarily Dylan Cozens coming in, being their number one center. That's not what they're trading him for. But he's a good reclamation project for somebody. And I hate to say it, you know, it's one of those things where if you're a player playing for the Buffalo Sabres, a lot of teams look at Buffalo Sabres players and say, he needs a change of scenery. We've seen it a couple times recently where guys leave Buffalo and have a lot of success. I think that's why teams are kind of swinging around looking at these Buffalo Sabres players, because they know that probably in a better environment that they can perform and be good hockey players. And I think that's the problem that Buffalo's continue to run into, is why isn't Buffalo the place that these guys are thriving in and becoming the best versions of themselves? They go elsewhere and they do that. Why can't they do that in Buffalo? And that's a real big problem. It's been a problem for the Sabres for a long time. I've made tons of videos about it. And as we talk about these three players that I'm mentioning, if I'm a Sabres fan, I'm worried, because I totally see the world where they go to these teams, the Sabres are selling them for low, and they turn into high-value commodities with wherever they end up going. And that's concerning. So that is the rumor on Dylan Cozens. And then we kind of heard more from Pagnotta. He was kind of talking about how the Sabres prefer to get players rather than draft picks and prospects for Dylan Cozens. So hypothetically, let's just say they pull a Dobson, right? They got Noah Dobson from the Islanders, right? It would be like it would be Noah Dobson for Dylan Cozens type of thing, right? You want to maybe trade a center for a defenseman. It would have to be something like that. I'm not saying that's the trade that's going to happen, but that's maybe what you're looking at, is something where you're trying to get a player in return that, again, ideally is going to fill a positional need, and is another guy maybe looking for a change of scenery, right? So that's kind of what you're looking at there. And then the last report, you know, this one's been kind of thrown around all over the place, which is Owen Power. It's kind of weird with Owen Power, because I've heard that the Canucks were linked. I think if an Owen Power trade does happen, it's going to be more along the lines of, we're going to see something where they're trading for Elias Pettersson. I think that's the only, like, legitimate way we see that trade go down. I just don't think Buffalo is, I mean, I got to be honest with you, I don't think Buffalo is stupid enough to trade Owen Power and it's got to be something with Elias Pettersson. So, again, that's why I think Buffalo would, in an ideal world, with the Vancouver Canucks, if they make a trade, I mean, is there a way you can make a giant package of Owen Power, Dylan Cozens, and Alex Tuch for Elias Pettersson, right? So it probably takes different assets. That's probably not going to be the trade, but I think Buffalo is trying to work with Vancouver to the best they can to try and figure out, like, can we make this deal work? And if that falls through and you start seeing Tuck traded for a draft pick, well, maybe that draft pick they get in exchange for Alex Tuck from Tampa or a prospect, maybe they flip that in the deal over the summer for Elias Pettersson, right? So the trades that we see Buffalo make at the deadline, it might not necessarily be the big splash that we're expecting here. Trading Power, trading Cozens, that might not necessarily be the case. But the moves they make might be setting themselves up for something bigger in the summer, right? So that's kind of how you have to look at this deadline for the Sabres. Because the reality is they're going to wait till the last minute to make any of those types of trades. And Elias Pettersson, he has no like say on where he goes until this offseason. So until July, the Vancouver Canucks have a little more time to get something done, right? If they want to get something done at the draft on Elias Pettersson, they can do that. So I don't know. I want to hear what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of the rumors around Owen Power, Dylan Cozens, and Alex Tuck? I think it's going to be really, it's disappointing because here we are once again talking about the Buffalo Sabres not making the playoffs, selling at the deadline, and worse, now they're trading some of those young prospects they've been developing for the last couple years. Kind of like Jack Eichel, they trade him to a team with maybe a little bit higher prestige, a little bit more of a structure to their development, and then they go win a Stanley Cup, like St. Louis's Ryan O'Reilly. The Vezina season, the season after Robin Leonard was let go by the Buffalo Sabres, going to the New York Islanders. Another example, Jack Eichel, right? Jack Eichel and all the success that he has had right now with the Vegas Golden Knights. Like, you go on and on and on, and the theme stays the same for Buffalo. It's all these players leaving Buffalo and finding success elsewhere. When is it going to be the time where Buffalo is the place where players want to go, where players find success, where they grow and develop? When is that going to happen? Is it ever going to happen? Because all we've heard from the ownership and the GM and this and that is the high taxes in New York and it's cold up here. We can't compete with Miami. You know what competes with Miami? You know what competes with the weather and the money? Culture, environment, legacy, solid structure. Why do teams... That's the lamest excuse ever. Because guess what? Why do people want to go to Vancouver? Why do people want to go to Calgary, Toronto, Montreal, New York, Boston, Chicago? They're all cold. They have high taxes. Why is Buffalo the place that people don't want to go? They have the Buffalo Bills. They have a huge, hardcore, devoted fan base. But they don't have anything to believe in with this Buffalo Sabres team. You got to show people a reason to believe. Right? So, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse with this one. We talked about this so many times on the channel, but I figured I'd bring it up once again here today. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for our Friday, March 9th, NHL trade deadline live stream. We'll be doing a live stream all morning throughout the trade deadline day. I'm off from work. It's going to be perfect. I'm very excited for it, and hopefully you guys are as well. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you again next time.